Well, let's move on here because hacking group Anonymous has struck again, and this time claiming it has stolen thousands of credit cards and personal information from the clients of think tank Stratfor. Senior West Coast correspondent Jon Erlichman is joining us now from San Francisco with all the details. Good morning, Jon.
Good morning, Scarlet. Let's just recap how this all unfolded. So Stratfor, as you mentioned, was hacked by hackers who have claimed to be associated with Anonymous, which is a group that has created all sorts of headaches for government agencies and companies over the last few years. Stratfor is a firm that does research on security issues, security threats around the globe, cyber security issues as well. So in many ways, they do analysis on the kinds of threats that we're talking about this morning. And obviously the concern is that they've gotten their hands on, the hackers have gotten their hands on information from those Stratfor clients who include Goldman Sachs and Google and Apple and the Air Force, and what can they do with that information aside from taking credit cards and going and spending money on charitable organizations, which is something that we've been hearing about over the last couple of days. And this gets us back to how you fight these types of attacks. How do lawmakers and companies get on the same page? We know that there has been legislation pushed from lawmakers to get companies to be more forthcoming with information so that you can fight associations like Anonymous, as the name would suggest, which are coming at you from all sorts of directions. You don't know who exactly you're fighting. The challenge, and we've even heard this from analysts at Stratfor, is that companies aren't always forthcoming with that information because they see it as a sign of weakness. If we talk about it, hey, maybe their stock price is affected. That will be the challenge going forward. We know there is the issue of this threat around the world. The question is, how do you stop it? Scarlett?
All right, thank you so much, Jon Erlichman, for setting us up on that story. And for more on this development, joining us now is our friend and contributing editor, Richard Falkenrath. He's also a principal at Chertoff Group. And Richard, you heard what Jon said about Stratfor being the target of these hackers. It's a little bit ironic given that Stratfor specializes in security and intelligence issues. And it sounds like all these hackers took were credit card information. Is that right?
Well, we don't know. And the way these things work, when there's a cyber attack like this, it takes a long time to reconstruct exactly what was taken by whom, for what reason. And the hackers are often evasive and, in fact, misleading in some of the reporting about what they were really up to. It's actually not unusual for this particular network of hackers, Anonymous, to go after someone in the security business because one of their agendas is to point out the poor security practices of the so-called security apparatus.
To make their point even harder.
Right. And so they like to poke at anyone who posits themselves as a real expert on security and say, look, these guys who say they're experts, they can't even secure their stuff either.
Okay, so they say they're going to use the money, they're going to use that credit card information and donate money to charity. Is that really where the money is going to end up, you think?
No, it's unlikely. So the credit card companies have ways of reclaiming when fraudulent transactions, but more likely they're going to use this personal information for what we call spear phishing attacks. These are socially engineered or very carefully crafted emails that a subscriber of Stratfor will get to entice them into downloading other executable code onto their systems, allowing further penetrations into those systems.
Now, apparently this breach was conducted in retaliation for the arrest and imprisonment of Bradley Manning, who, as you know, gave all that information over to WikiLeaks. Are the two necessarily linked, or are they just looking for some kind of excuse to pin it on?
No, I don't think they're necessarily linked. And in fact, they could possibly be completely separate in that people say it's related to WikiLeaks. Other people have said it's about the police officers arresting the pro-streeters in Occupy Wall Street. Who knows what really motivated this group? We do know that they're not motivated by what motivates most cyber hackers, which is to make money. These are not criminals. And when you're a criminal, you don't post the fact that you've just hacked into someone's website. You try to secretly exploit it
for as long as you can.
For as long as you can, and you hope that whoever you stole the money from or that keeps quiet about it.
About the hack attack that took place over the holiday, attacking Stratfor, which is a global intelligence company that specializes on security and intelligence. And what the hackers did was take credit card information, but they also took the client list, and the client list is confidential. It's one of the most valuable parts of a business like Stratfor.
That's right. It's a subscription-based intelligence service that anybody, a government agency or a news source or an investment bank, can sign up for. And when they do that, they get special analyses, papers, in-depth looks at what's going on in Egypt or Pakistan. It's a little bit better than what you read in the normal newspaper, but it's not classified information. This is mostly analysis derived from open source information that the Stratfor employees go through through and try to make digestible and useful for their business clients.
Is it disadvantageous for companies to find out that their rivals now know that they get a subscription to Stratfor?
Not really. It's very commonly used in this community. Lots of people are on it and see it, so I don't think that's the big issue. The big issue is that what information did you provide to Stratfor when you signed up? So clearly you gave them an email, you gave them a business address, did you give them your personal cell phone? Maybe you can get a text message on that. Did you give them the credit card information, another email, a secondary email? All of that data about you and your company can then be used in subsequent attacks targeted just at you, who may be a more valuable target for the hackers than Stratfor ever was.
Than the institution itself.
Right.
Okay. This took place right around Christmas Day, and there seems to be a seasonal pattern here to hacking. A lot of action around Christmas and New Year's because people are off, presumably, or why is that?
Well, there's a couple things going on. First, this attack took place over several weeks and was just reported on Christmas Day. But the seasonality...
Or they advertised that they did it, right?
Right. The seasonality comes in part from the secondary cyber criminal market. And so the way this works is that people, there's actually a market where you can go on and buy fraudulently acquired credit card information and bank account information. Now, the banks and the credit card companies are on the lookout for fraudulent transactions, but it's easier to hide a fraudulent transaction in a time of high transactions.
Like during the holiday season.
During the holidays, Cyber Monday, it's the largest transactions in the country. That's the best time to deploy your stolen bank accounts and your stolen credit card activity. And I believe that explains a great deal of the seasonality. It comes from the economics of exploiting criminally acquired credit card information.
Right. 2011 definitely seemed like a year of the hacker with a lot of reports of hacking. It seems like every week, a company or an agency there. Is this going to get worse in 2012?
I think so. This is going to go for a while. There's a couple things that are going on. In 2011, you're exactly right, Scarlett. Basically, every week, some new marquee institution was hacked. So first trend is that these things are making it out into the public more often. In the years prior, people went to great lengths to keep it disclosed. Now there's rules that if you lose a customer's personal information, you are required to reveal that. That then becomes a news item. The second is that this is an industry. I mean, hacking and cyber criminality is an industry unto itself.
Is there a dollar amount there?
Yeah, well, we don't know how big it is. It's hidden, and it's mostly offshore in countries that don't enforce very well. But there is hacking for hire going on. There are entire sectors of the economy, say the chemical sector, which are systematically targeted by hackers for hire who are looking for trade secrets about that industry to give, presumably, to another player in that industry.
Okay, and another theme that you mentioned was mobile, right? Everyone uses their smartphones to make phone calls, but also to check their credit scores, to check their football scores on fantasy football, and also to make purchases. That's a big area for potential hackers.
It's huge, and it's really exploded in 2011, and that will continue. Now, we love our mobile devices, our smartphones. They allow us to access everything, our bank accounts, to make transactions, our personal information. But the form factor of a mobile phone makes it inherently harder to secure. It's harder to type in a long, good password, even if you bother to maintain that. And you want convenient, quick access all the time. And so what we're seeing is a really exploding rise in malware targeted against mobile devices and mobile e-commerce suites. And now it's not just BlackBerries, it's of course iPhones, Android phones, Windows 7 phones. There's a lot of different platforms out there, a lot of different form factors, a lot of variation and apps being updated. All of those are potential sources of vulnerability.
A lot of work for law enforcement to do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Richard Falkenrath, Bloomberg contributing editor and also a principal at the Chertoff Group.